This week on RSBANDB Update, the Master Crafting event is here and it provides a reason to smelt gold and silver. Also, ninja strikes on the drop cleaner, skill guide, and deep sea fishing magical nets, plus our early opinions on the Archaeology livestream and the Diamond Dozen. This is RSBANDB Update, episode 768, recorded Thursday, March 12th, 2020. The Dirty Dozen. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us for another episode of RSBANDB Update. This week, big news coming from the RuneScape community and, of course, you know, in the real world as well. But nonetheless, we are cognizant of what's happening in the real world, and should something like that ever interrupt our RSBANDB Update, we will, of course, let you know. But one of the best things that can come from what's being called social distancing in what the WHO has now branded as a pandemic is, in terms of self-isolation, you can use that time to learn a new skill, or if you don't want to do that, catch up on your podcasts. And we're here this week with another RSBANDB Update episode, filling up the can if you got a backlog, but nonetheless, we got lots to talk about this week, don't we, Tannis?
Did you just say listen to us while you're filling up the can?
I meant if you have a can of RSBANDB Updates that's in the backlog.
Oh, okay.
Like, have you ever heard the expression, another episode in the can?
Yeah, I've heard you say that.
Yeah, that goes back from the days of film when, you know, they would shoot on reel-to-reel, and then when they would finish, they'd pop it in the film canister.
Okay.
That's what that means. There's a little bit of a history lesson there. But nonetheless, joining us this week, David, you're here. You've been on the podcast many times before. We got a few combat things to discuss this week, and maybe some look back at the Solak changes from last week. So welcome aboard.
Yep, hey.
And, of course, Tannis and myself, as we are each and every week. He is Tannis79 in-game, and I am Shane12088. And David can be found in-game under the name of Cabru. So let's begin with the Master Crafting event with this week. And, you know, this is a standard currency event that extends off to the Crafting Guild. And I was a little bit surprised in seeing this because, you know, normally we haven't had something as generic for one of these community events that was simply a skill on the whole that is being focused. I don't think we've had one like that, have we?
It doesn't come to...
Yeah, we've had some that were multiple skills, I think. But
or like an area, maybe like gathering or, you know, support, right? I think we've had some like that.
Yeah.
Like different categories.
So this is a 2-week-long event, and everything crafting is getting a 10% XP boost in it. And when you train any other skill, you'll get a 5% XP boost. Now with this, you'll get the standard Mastercraft patches that allow you to complete the event, which work as they do in any other currency event. You get 10% more while training crafting and 5% more while training smithing, fletching, or construction, which are, of course, the skills that are a little bit related to crafting. And when you get enough of those, you can turn them in for the Master Crafter cosmetic override. But there's actually something with this that's a little bit different than past events that caught my eye. And I don't know how you guys feel about this, but what do you guys think about these events awarding progress, or rather not progress, little buffs into the skill? Like, for example, there's a jewelry buff in the skill, which, I mean, on its own, we don't really think is a huge deal, and I'd like some opinions on this. But what exactly would 250% extra XP when smelting gold and silver bars do, in addition to 50% gold and silver smelting and 33% gold and silver casting? That's faster than normal with this. And this unlocks at 5,000 points.
Permanently?
Only during the event.
Oh.
Only during the event. Only during the event. And that's the important thing to lay out here. That it's only during the event.
It feels like the continuation of the trend towards towards mobile, making RS3 more mobile friendly because weekly and daily events are becoming more and more commonplace, right?
Yeah, and that's,
so maybe
and that's the
this is
whole
kind
magic
of
of the living
another
game.
example of that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, you know, we go back to the goldsmithing gauntlets prior to the mining and smithing rework. And those boosted the XP that you would get when you would smelt gold and silver bars to the point where gold smelting was actually a good way to train smithing back in the day, believe it or not. But with the rework, those goldsmith gauntlets turned into smelting gauntlets instead. And
they're just as valuable today
as they were before.
Yeah.
But for those
quest item.
Yes, definitely.
See, difference. That's, you know what I mean? Like, there used to... But David's
Go ahead.
right. This... I don't know, man. Quest used to matter when it came to, like, the rewards like that. There was always something cool like that with progression. Like, there could be an item that if you were wearing it would give you those buffs.
Yeah.
During a quest. But but David's
this is
right.
time limited.
This is making it mobile. This is like making it a daily thing, even though we're...
And you got to go a long way to
away
unlock
from
it. It's
daily
5,000 points to unlock it. At 10,000, you unlock the mining benefits, which are 50% extra XP when mining gold and silver rocks. And when you mine clay, you'll get soft clay. And I did check to see if we had a bit of a gold rush going on this week because of this, and we do not. In fact, gold ore is selling below market value. So this will further depress the price of gold. But, I mean, if you get to that point and you get 5,000 progress in here, and you're looking for some cheap smithing XP, gold. I don't know if it's...
I don't think it's not good enough now after the rework for the XP.
The rework has made so much of smithing profitable. It's like it's a low profit, but it's still profit.
Yeah, and I mean, of course, here we're not talking about for somebody who is maxed at this point. There are definitely going to be cases where you're going to want to, do the standard fare that you've been doing. But for somebody leveling up, somebody who is playing this game day to day, mobile, who just started the game a few months back, this event is a godsend for them.
Yeah, I suppose it probably is good for like low to
mid levels. Then there's a final one, earn benefits at 20,000, where you get 50% faster crafting when you use the pottery wheel, and 80% faster crafting when you use the pottery oven, and 100% extra XP when you're crafting urns, so double XP on urns.
Double XP on urns is actually the only thing in this whole package that people are probably doing,
and that's why they put it at the end.
You know what the real crafting is like. You know what like the real crafting this week has been. Setting your ass at a harp, making sure you got 4,000.
5,000
actually. Crystal
5,000.
Yeah, 5,000. Okay, I've seen people crafting here.
Yeah. Yeah. But probably not the urns and whatnot. And it's interesting that they focus the crafting skill before Archaeology comes out, given the fact you're going to need that much in terms of the crystal dust and the harmonic dust or harmony dust. I always get the two confused from the harp versus the fishing one. But nonetheless, I mean, I think it's an interesting option. And by no means is it going to be one of the strong suits for everyday players out there, but for a new player, this is definitely a nice boost, and it shouldn't be shrugged away. And
well, no, like I was adding it up. If you had your clan avatar, like altogether, you get like what, 18% boost by doing any
crafting.
Any kind of crafting in there, and so I mean,
it's nice.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not double XP nice, but it's free XP. And, if you have your bonus XP and you're training crafting, this is going to stack with it as well. And, this just further goes into talk about why we need a true RuneScape endgame. But we're not going to have that discussion now. We've had that discussion many, many times over the last weeks and months here on that. So the main reason why this is so interesting to me is, we talked about how this is nice for leveling up players and the like. But could you imagine if we had one of these events that was tailored specifically to another skill, like fletching or farming? And how they could be used as a way of focusing these skills and creating communal training activities. Because, I've never seen the crafting guild this busy. I'm being honest with you there on that.
Well, yeah.
I've certainly never seen it that busy. There's not much use to it, right? Like, what would you...
Yeah,
exactly.
Maybe
that's the thing.
Like really low-level gold mining, because the living rock caverns might cause you to die because of living rock creatures. I guess that would be the only use I can think of.
And I think urns, because...
But there's typically... That bank isn't that close, though.
Oh, there's actually a portable bank chest right there, though.
Yeah, but isn't there... I guess Prif is probably too high-leveled for most people who are making urns, maybe, because I feel like high levels just buy them, right? So I guess that's where you would make urns.
Yeah,
a lot of alts. A lot of alts run.
Yeah.
Those.
Let's just have a look at the urn prices here with this, because that's another, key point. What do you guys think is the most popular urn?
It's changed so much. I have no idea, but probably farming.
All right.
Hunter.
Let's go with Hunter then.
Yeah, farming and hunter. Farming, hunter, fish. They're all so good. There's really no reason to not use them.
4,300 XP or GP right now for the decorated hunter urn with no rune on it. 30-day average has been 4,700. So, this is going to put the prices of urns down, but it's going to be an interesting exercise nonetheless to see if this kind of focus on this skill is good for both the economy of people creating it more so, or the people who are buying it, or somewhere in between. And that's why, I chose those two skills in particular, fletching and farming, because as it is, farming right now really gets its inputs from combat, unfortunately, and thieving in terms of the seeds. And fletching, on the other hand, just has a whole myriad of inputs that you can buy on the Grand Exchange already, like all the wood that we have in game. So that's why I mentioned those two. And, of course, we also need to address the elephant in the room. The bulk people who want to train fletching fast are going to be doing broads, right?
Yeah, for sure.
They're going to be doing diamonds.
They're going to be doing what?
Darts, dragon darts on double XP extended, but yeah.
Yeah, so
for a daily scape, broads would be.
There we have it.
How you're going to
and that's why I said it would become so much more interesting if there would be future events like this that would expand outwards into the various other skills in game. And that's the point I want to take home from this, is that look at this not as another silly currency event, but look at this as a way of directing training around the game, which we've seen them do before with Yak Track, and it provides a purpose for people who want to play with that case. You're doing crafting this week, you might just craft some extra urns along the way. Granted, it's not that much, but it's definitely going to put the focus on it and make people feel as though that there's something to do. So all in all, I think this is a good, refreshing take on the currency events, and they should definitely try it in the future with other skills. Any other thoughts on it?
Yeah, I tend to agree with you, Shane, but I do have one little concern, or at least a question. I just want to look at it from another point of view. Is it good to point and put a focus on these older not so good looking places and or skills that need to be worked on to begin with. Like, this is kind of just juicing up the spot to drive some traffic.
And then
which
it's
is
all going
fine,
to disappear after, because the bank chest is temporary.
Right, because this, to me, this is more like a Voice of Saren type
right.
of thing than even a currency. I mean, I guess it's currency, but...
It's Voice of Saren with currency added. It's also worth noting that they added more workbenches, a loom, and a furnace there as well.
I just can't imagine, even at a low level, I can't imagine sitting down working on a loom, but, I mean...
Bowstring? If you're a member with flax.
You do that on a loom?
Yeah. Or spinning wheel. Sorry. That's
wheel.
there.
Yeah.
Yeah, in the crafting guild as well.
Right.
Oh.
But a loom is like some niche shit.
Yeah, it really is. It really is.
You might have needed it for a quest or something. I don't know.
Yeah, and you know, this is highlighting, like you said, the point that, you know, maybe crafting does need some work after this. And that should also be something to consider going into these future kind of events like this is, you know, don't base it around 15-year-old content in game that could benefit from a remaster. And what we're talking about here is, of course, parts of the crafting skill. Because it is a production skill, so the methods it uses is fine. It's just a question that the outputs from it are a little less than desirable at most points. So,
yeah, I mean, when it comes to its variety and stuff, like, crafting's still cool. But in this case, this particular case, I feel like the crafting guild looks really old, and we all know that we would like to see crafting remade in the same sense that smithing is, to where you could be crafting your ranged armor. So it kind of, you know, reminds you of that a little bit for me.
Yeah. All right. I think we can move on to the patch notes at this point, in particular all the Ninja fixes that came in this week in terms of changes to the cleaners, the drop cleaners as they're being called. And, you know, the user interfaces on these ones are really great. Have you guys had a chance to take a look at things like the Charming Imp and the Seedicide, the Herbicide, and the Bone Crusher?
Yeah, it's a lot better.
Yeah, I was wondering how it would be for you.
Yeah, it's a lot better, man.
Okay. David, what do you think? I mean, doing combat all the time, I don't know if you bring any of those out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that they did a pretty good job. I will say I don't really interact with the interfaces very much, so it's not something I really would think about.
Okay.
But I think that for people who do, that it's definitely way easier to look at.
For the record, the Charming Imp before was just a chat box list of things that you could customize, and now there's a nice GUI associated with it, a user interface, so to speak, and there's also now the option to destroy those summoning spirits shards that you get when you're getting those annoying things as the drop. So that's good.
In the one thing I really liked too.
Or sorry, not spirit shards. You don't want to destroy those. Spirit gems. There you go.
Spirit gems. Yeah.
Thank you.
Being able to turn those on individually.
Yes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, they really clogged up your. They really clogged things up when you're slaying. It was pretty frustrating.
Yeah. And, you know, Bone Crusher as well is on this list. And, you know, just in terms of looking at the way it goes when you utilize this interface for the things that you are able to sell on the Grand Exchange, there's actually Grand Exchange guide value prices on here so that, you know, maybe I shouldn't have those reinforced dragon bones used up by the Bone Crusher when I'm killing things. So that is there too as an option. So check the ground exchange prices before you make that decision. And, it's just a one-click check now. And there's a whole bunch of mobile-centric checkboxes. And, you can tell that this is the main reason that they did this, is because you don't want to access the menus like we had them before on the Charming Imp and whatnot, because that was just not a good way to control that interface compared to how it is now. Just having something that's graphical, follows the design norms where checkboxes and the like are presented. So all in all, good changes on this one with this here. Let's see, is there anything I missed on this?
Does this also make these interfaces more mobile friendly?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes,
so
it does.
Is that also a big part of what they're doing?
Yeah, I think so. And it says previously upgrades to the drop cleaners were hidden if they were not yet obtained. Now they are no longer hidden and instead are shown at the bottom of each interface. So this will describe where they can be unlocked or bought, and this is to better guide players into obtaining the upgrades. And
see, that needs to be in every single game-wide. Like, can you imagine? That would be so nice.
Right.
That everywhere.
And this is the kind of thing we heard when they said, we need to improve the mid-game experience. Back when, at the end of December 2018, when they said, it's going to be a while for mobile and whatnot. This is exactly the kind of thing that they were talking about with this.
Well, so I don't necessarily agree with this position, but I'm wondering about how you feel if someone would respond by saying that they're just going further and further in the direction of hand-holding. Like, obviously, you could look up anything on the wiki, but do you think that there is any risk of losing the novelty to discovering things you didn't know about the game maybe months later? And perhaps it'd be frustrating to finally realize that you're missing out on a thing, but at the same time, it's kind of exciting. Whereas if they're always telling you what the next upgrade is, what you should be doing, where you should be getting it, etc., it risks the game feeling too linear.
Well, I think that's a separate discussion than the user interface changes, because in large part the user interface changes were definitely needed on this front. I think what we can come away with on this is that that's a discussion we should have. Should these kind of changes, like the one I just mentioned where it points people where to get the upgrade, should that be brought in through the user interface at the player level, or should your character have to discover that through gameplay? And
right, yeah. Obviously, I'm a big fan of making the user interface easier to navigate. I'm specifically referring to the last thing.
I don't know. That's a really interesting question. I've never thought of it that way.
The only way to know that is if you happen to see it on a dollar shop, right? So, like, the fact that it's just pointing you to, hey, you got to use $1, and then you're going to be like,
or the farm to upgrade this,
or the farm, right? I mean, I'm a big fan of stuff that does this because I don't want to have to.
And plus, it's an accessibility thing for you.
Well, yeah, I guess that makes more sense than anything else. But still, you don't want to be taken out of the game anyway, right? Like you want everything to be right there. Like if you have to look it up in the wiki, and now I've got to tab out. I've got to look at something else. Well, I guess you could use the chat box. I can do that now, but it still opens up the wiki. still got to tab back out. Yeah, and I mean, so I don't know. I'm a fan of that myself.
All right.
Yeah, that makes sense to me.
Moving on from that, other adjustments have been made to improve readability, including the vertical spaces between boxes. And chat messages received when an item is consumed or collected have been made more consistent across all drop cleaners. And this also means that the messages for translated languages is more consistent as well. And there we go. Oh, and this is what we heard as well about the mobile side of it. The checkboxes on the drop cleaners now use the correct builders, ensuring that they are graphically consistent regardless of normal, legacy, or mobile UI. So here we go, once again being the impetus for this kind of update. And for anybody wondering what that means, that basically means that the under-the-hood code that they're using is going to make it so that these things look the same, whether you're on normal, legacy, or mobile. In general, minus the color. Legacy UI is the brown one.
Oh, like Legacy.
Yeah, the brown one with a non-resizable interface. Yeah, you kind of forget that exists after a while, don't you?
Yeah. Well, when I see that, like, I think old school. Like, I would, if I saw that on Twitch, I would assume old school. I would never think RS3. That's weird. It's weird, man.
All right. Other ninja fixes this week, and I'm going to call them fixes because I don't think calling them ninja strikes still is a good idea. I'm waiting to be proven wrong on that. Or flips. Let's call them ninja flips. Other ninja flips this week. Thank you, Tanis. The Geyser Titan summoning familiar can now recharge all kinds of enchanted dragonstone jewelry. Previously, it would not recharge skill necklaces or combat bracelets. And aside from this, some messaging for the Fountain of Heroes, the Legends Guild Totem Pole, and the Tears of Saren Fountain have been made more consistent.
I always think it's funny when they do updates like this, like the Crystal Geyser one. It's just like that's been a thing since summoning release, you know? It's just funny to me when they make these kind of randomish fixes.
And it's what Warden always wanted to do.
Over a decade later, right?
And it's what Warden wanted to do about bringing all this QL things forward.
That makes sense.
Yeah. It just makes me smile thinking about like how big of a deal it was, buddy, getting that Legends Guild, be able to get that totem, charge up your what's it, combat bracelet or skills? There's one of them.
Combat bracelet and skills necklace.
Right, and that stuff mattered too because there wasn't lodestones, so jewelry cruising around with that was like. I remember it, Shane.
Yeah,
definitely.
I was never in the era where I found a use for the combat bracelet or skills necklace, to be honest, because I don't know why I never found a use for those. But the glories definitely.
Glories for sure, but the combat bracelet was for getting to Sears if you didn't have the magic level to teleport to Camelot, which like seems absurd because it's like 51 magic, but I don't know. There was an era where it was easier to get 13k for a combat bracelet than 51 magic or whatever is the magic level for that spell.
Well, even for skillers, right? In this day and age.
Oh yeah, that's a good point too. Yeah, and then skills necklace always. Fishing Guild. Yeah, Skills Necklace was Fishing Guild. I know I've used that a bunch of times.
Next up, the ninjas have had a word with Egil, and he will no longer interrupt players with his ceremonial sword plans while they're smithing. Instead, he'll now wait for you to speak to him and to hand you the plans before disappearing shortly afterwards. And they say no Egils were harmed in the making of this patch note. As a goodwill gesture, the ninjas gave Egil some smoke bombs to spice up his disappearance.
That's cool. So can we just ignore him forever now and not have to take the plans?
Yes.
Well, for me, I don't like that because now I'm going to be AFKing too much and miss out on Smith plans, on sword plans.
I don't know. I really never enjoyed those sword plans, if I'm being honest with you.
And
they're annoying, but there's so much XP.
Yeah, I mean, I've always heard people be like, "Oh no, it's real easy." I've never liked it.
Yeah, I've never liked it either, and I can see.
Always mess it up.
Right. Is that an okay thing to say? I've never liked it, but I can see.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
I used to hate them, and then I figured out how to get like 95% plus every time, and then after I figured that out, I was like, okay, these are great.
Was that before or after the cold showers for your 72-hour sessions?
I did not train smithing. I did smithing all adamant plate bodies when I got that 99. I think I got 99 smithing before Artisan's Workshop came out, maybe.
All right.
Although I don't know exactly.
Used unaugmented versions of custom fit trim masterwork and custom fit trim spike masterwork can now be keep saved. All right, now here's a good one. When the next skill guide is opened, it will automatically jump to the level of your most recently unlocked item. For example, the farming skill guide at level 68 will jump straight to level 68 unlock, which is palm trees. This means you no longer have to scroll all the way through a skill guide to find what is or at your current level.
Oh, cool, man.
This is so good for things
Like
that have lots in there, like invention and soon to be archaeology.
Man, it's like patch notes that matter. Like, you know, or well, I guess they're ninja flips, but I mean, that's nice.
Yeah, it really is. It really is. And finally, this is a big one. A deposit all raw fish option. I'll repeat, a deposit all raw fish option has been added to the magical nets at deep sea fishing. This will deposit any raw fish into your that's in your inventory, but won't deposit anything else, such as urns or deep sea fishing hub boosts.
Cool.
This doesn't include magnetic minnows, however, as they can still be turned into bait.
That sounds like that's pretty good.
Yeah.
It is kind of like annoying getting them other things all the time.
Yeah, and you're definitely right. Ninja flips that matter on that. All of these ones. So
Yeah.
all right. Some changes made to the Lumbridge market as well, including the description of opportunistic merchants in the market no longer specifies that they're trying to cash in on the war. Of course, the war has ended many, many years ago. 2 pairs of socially awkward citizens at the Lumbridge market have mustered the courage to face each other. I don't know what that's about, but okay. And removed the looping voiceover from certain merchants and citizens in the Lumbridge market, and no more shall Lumbridge adventurers suffer the tyranny of pineapple promises and troll war gossip.
Where is the Lumbridge market?
Oh, that's that
What is
area by where the Combat Academy was, like the general store and whatnot, and the fishing shop, all of that stuff before you head down into the crater.
That's called the market?
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, didn't know that.
Yeah.
I also did not know that was referred to as a market.
Yeah, I think it was
Makes sense.
just the colloquial term on that. In terms of Solak scaling from last week, during the Solak encounter, the root attack once again happens after 1:06, 1 minute 6 seconds instead of 58 seconds for all group sizes. Is that a big change, David? The 8-second difference.
I mean, yeah, probably. I guess.
Did you know it
just is
happened at
returned
58
to-
seconds instead? Or sorry, at 1:06.
No, I did not actually. But I haven't done much Solak since the changes.
All right. Camera shaking effect has been removed when base tanking Solak.
That's lovely.
Familiars using range damage will no longer break the Crassian Leviathan special attack animations. And the defend animation removal was missed from Telos, and they have now been removed from this encounter. So it wasn't just Solak, because the patch notes last week made it sound like it was just Solak that they removed defense animations from, but based on this, it was all bosses. That's pretty good. That's amazing. I like that.
Yeah. I do find it ironic that they forgot the boss where this probably makes the most difference for people learning out of all the bosses.
Telos?
Yeah. I mean, it's probably the most mechanically
They didn't do it to
intensive.
No, not in the first week.
They just forgot it. It's like they got you on Giant Mole, but Telos, oops.
Oops.
This is like pretty ironic. It's like KBD we fixed, but Telos, sorry.
Little oversight. General bug fixes this week. Fixed an issue preventing players retrieving their Starfire capes from Diango. Fixed an issue that caused pickaxes stored in the tool belt to not work as expected in free-to-play. And players should no longer get a message stating that 0 oddments have been added to their currency pouch due to the oddments rebalance.
Did anyone take advantage of the massive reduction in price for prismatic stars. I saw it on Twitter, but the time I logged in, it was gone.
I spent all my oddments on double XP weekend.
Oh, I see. They reduced star prices by like 75% or something, which was incredible.
Yep.
But now they're back. Now they're back up closer to their regular price.
Apparently,
was that for a day? Like how?
It was a mistake. It was supposed to be a 33% sale for a day.
Oh, are they doing anything about that, or is it just people who?
If you got it,
that makes sense. It's not like that was malicious or anything.
No. Yeah,
that's good. I'm glad they're not doing anything about that, because I think that
lots of people probably cashed in on that.
Yeah.
And Tanis, here we go. That's that constant discussion we always have about, if people want these things, let's just make them available and not have to put the RNG behind it. Yep. Fixed a bug where the adrenaline urn could not be retrieved via Diango if the player destroyed it. And fixed a bug where all color variants of the Zodiac costume could not be retrieved if the player destroyed them in Diango. And that's the patch notes for the week. All right. Let's move on from them, and I think we can talk a little bit about archaeology now and the live stream, which was a very encompassing live stream. I don't know if we want to go through the whole darn thing, but we'll go through some of it, I think. Starting off, was there anything that really caught you guys' eyes? Well, I mean, aside from going through the video second by second.
I hope you're not relying on us to explain it, because I thought it's kind of complicated myself.
Yeah, I also found it complicated, but in a way that kind of excites me, because I really enjoy the complexity of invention and how much customizability and complexity that's brought into the game, and I hope that this will continue to build off of that.
Yeah, and from the sounds of it, there's going to be lots of mysteries that we won't be able to solve in the first week or maybe even the first month on this. So,
right. I think it's good in the long run, but for some reason, it almost feels like these kinds of it has to be out. It's like you want to get your hands on it to get it.
Yeah, that's why I don't really want to dance around too much here about the actual mechanics, because, we could spend an hour going through each and every sentence that was said and then utter our opinions on this. And I don't know if that would be doing anyone good, because I think the best way to form our opinions on this is going to be play the thing when it launches.
Yeah, because, I mean, it all makes it makes sense. It sounds, it sounds cool and everything.
Looks very nice.
But I don't know. I want to play it for it to fall into place. I know that soil, I know it's kind of like a second chance type of deal, but I don't know if I'm going to want to keep it or if I want to sell it. I don't know that yet.
Yeah, and
I got to play it.
The people on the couch were split with that too, but we'll get there. So we'll just go through the core game loop that was shown for archaeology. So first things first, there's things called time sprites, which effectively draw your interest to little places of interest or importance, and they're things to look at when you're digging at an archaeology site. And if you click on them, you're going to get a better XP rate, you're going to get a better component rate, and so on and so forth. Think of it as a opportunity, except one that doesn't manage or vanish, and you got to follow it around.
Yeah. You think this is... See, I want to know where it's falling on the scale, because it sounds like it's going to be somewhere between, Opportunities and Fish Flinger.
I think it's going to be what they wanted Fish Flingers to be without going too far.
See, okay, and so I'm just a little bit nervous about how obvious it's going to be able to.
So you cut out there for me.
Obvious to what?
To follow, if it's going to be visible, easily.
I mean, it looked visible enough to me in the video.
And seeing I was on my phone, so I couldn't be sure.
And you see small screen, so yeah. I don't know. And I mean, that's something we can definitely wait to see on, too. But the first thing you'll do in archaeology is excavation, which they describe as the bread and butter, as Dr. Osborne put it. Yeah, we're calling him Dr. Osborne now. And it's the core part of the skill that is gathering. Resources will be gathered and then they'll be used in the restoration part of the skill. And when you're gathering these resources, you'll get multiple types of materials. And, they say this is the core aspect that is gathering, but there's also something called the discovery bar, which equates to show you how long it'll be until you make a discovery, which when that happens, you find a damaged artifact that you might want to keep or you might want to sell until later. Now, with this, materials are stackable. Grace of the Elves and Porters will work on them, so that's good to know, at least. And we'll be able to send them straight to the bank, or rather to the, I think they called it the material box or something like that. I forget what the exact lingo was.
Well, see, that's what I'm confused about. See, that I found really confusing. Does it mean we're going to have, we have ore boxes, and then there's going to be, I thought it was we're going to have a bank,
it's going to be an archaeology bank, and then there's going to be another kind of box that you're going to have to carry around with you for some of the other ones that I forget. Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Yeah.
But then...
Go ahead.
The porters, so that's just going to be in addition to, it's like it is now with the mining. So you can, it's not going to cancel each other out.
Why would it cancel each other out?
I thought
because you're not going to be mining you're not going to be mining and using and doing archaeology at the same time.
No, not with the mining. But I thought that it did that in the mining example, so I didn't know if it would do that on the archaeology example.
Well, in mining, it sends it to your ore box, or your ore bank, rather. Your porters.
Right. Yeah.
So I would assume it would do the same thing here.
Okay.
Yeah. Mattocks are going to be made with smithing bars. Dragon mattocks will be rare drops, one from archaeology, one from something else. And they're also going to have a hero mattock, and of course the one we're going to need to make with our 5,000 harmonic dust.
Well, I must say, either get ready David or get ready Shane, because this is either coming from a drop of something you kill or something you hunt. It's big.
You're probably right on that.
Yeah.
And, there's going to be a race to get those first. Material, soil, and the currency will be tradable in the skill. Everything else is not. And, this is where it comes in for the gathering skill, that we were saying that people who get going in the first week or so of it could potentially make lots of money from it. Though Mod Timmo was very clear to say that if you're just doing gathering, you're not going to get a lot of XP in the skill. So you're going to need to do a bit of both and more on the production side.
Good.
Yeah, definitely. That's fair. And that's the way it should be.
Yeah, that's how it always should be.
Yeah.
Well, if you gather, you can't get a good XP rate?
No, you got to do the second part, the restoration part, to get the bulk of your XP.
Right, so that is where... Okay.
Yeah. Here's what we were wondering
that part's
about.
viable.
Yeah. The soil and materials are buyable. So that makes it so that you can do your restoration as well with materials. Now, and here's the important part that we were talking about. Porters work for materials. They do not work on soil. And to get around this, a soil box has been added that you fill with soil. This is what you were thinking of, Tanis.
Okay.
And the soil box is like the ore box.
Okay.
And soil is another chance at a drop in addition to the materials. And when you screen the soil, there's a chance to receive any 3 materials from that site, regardless of level. But there's also a chance to get an artifact from anything you can excavate. So like a broken sword would be pretty rare. And there's going to be different ones from each site. And, this is the point where we say we're not sure yet if soil is going to be something you keep or something you sell. Personally, for me, on what I've heard, it would be something I keep, unless it's going for an extravagant amount of money.
Yeah, I mean, it probably depends on how the amount of time it takes to do the sifting and get the,
Yeah.
I mean, because who knows?
Who knows how long you're going to be spending.
Yeah.
And who knows how rare soil is going to be, right?
Yeah, well, yeah, how rare it's going to be to find anything in it, like an artifact.
Yeah, and they said it would be pretty rare to get an artifact in it. Now, they said soil was hotly debated internally, and in the longevity testing, they found that there was indeed a mixed bag of opinions on it internally, from it being completely useless to it being great. And even on the couch, there were vast differences in opinions. Mod Timbo likes to screen and keep his soil, whereas Mod Ryan liked to sell it instead. So the fact there's a vast majority of opinions tells us that it's going to be largely personal preference. Now, if you try to restore an artifact and you don't have the materials yet, you can go to a material cache. And these material caches are what you were concerned about. It's a different type of excavation which contains only one specific type of material. They're spread throughout the world. They function like trees and then fall over while you wait for it to respawn. And these are the only thing in the skill with competition.
Sharing, Shane. My question is, when you're sharing it, does that mean that item might go in someone else's inventory? And what? I get it on the weekends, and they get it during the week. I mean, how's this work?
It's like old school woodcutting.
Exactly.
I think that we need a set of elected officials to break up the big archaeologists and redistribute everything so that everyone gets a chance.
That's right. Well, but see, this is
everyone gets a seat at the archaeology table.
Hell yeah. Because these are the only places you can get a specific material. And remember, during the complicated explanation, you can get one of 3 materials while you're excavating, and you don't know which one it is. So you may need to go to one of these places because you need a specific material. So it's not so, I didn't think it's so cut and dry like that. I'm like, oh, that kind of sucks. Why'd you guys go backwards? But then again, who knows? I need to get my hands on it.
Yeah. And then this takes us into restoration, which is, when you get a broken artifact from the discovery bar, it will tell you all the materials you need. And when they were doing longevity testing, they found that, taking smithing, for example, where you'd make a bronze sword, it only needs a few bronze bars. To restore an artifact, you need a whole list of materials. And to do this, they decided that, we need to build a certain interface that will effectively show all the materials that are needed for this, which makes sense, right? And if they didn't take that extra time and they didn't do the longevity testing, we wouldn't have this. And I got a picture of the interface up on the screen for anybody wondering what it looks like. It shows the amount of XP you get, the amount of currency you can sell it for, the chronotes, is also the archaeology level, and all of the different materials needed that you got to use to make it, and what collections it's a part of as well. And the one they showed requires Zerosian insignias, Third Age iron, and a Venator-like crossbow, and it's part of the Zerosian 1 collection. Now, go ahead.
I'm just wondering, Shane, is it just me, or do you get the feeling that this might be hell or slow? Like, I mean, we're going to wish for the days of divination.
I'm okay with that. You know how I feel about that.
But do you get that feeling? Like, this was the first time I started to get the feeling like, well, that's
what we thought about Hunter when Hunter
really
came out.
Slow.
And it wasn't until people hit the Chinchampas that they found the best way to trade it.
Well, how many years did it take to get crystals?
Well, I mean, that's different. But basically what I'm saying is it's going to take a while for people to nail down the best trading methods, and don't be surprised if it takes a month and a half to figure that out.
Yeah, but I'm
Yeah,
saying like
but-
the main might not be all that fast.
People are more innovative than you think, though, and people with unlimited resources
That's
exist. And so,
And the
For-
question is,
I-
will the
you know-
information be hoarded? I
You
mean,
mean like
I think it
are we
will-
going to see a repeat of the hand
it
cannon?
will and it won't be, though. It will and it won't be, because enough people who are going for top page will be streaming. Well, I'm sure there'll be at least a dozen people who are 5.4 who are going to be streaming a 24-hour stream on release.
yeah, and I mean, it's definitely going to be something to watch. And I think the way we've gone about these things before, at least here at the podcast, and I hope the rest of the community does, is that transparency is going to be the best way to go. But of course, knowing the way the community is, that probably won't happen.
Man, I was hoping to be back in Max within a month. It ain't. I don't know, man. It ain't looking real pretty.
You don't
Hey,
need the
good.
Max Guild.
Good thing the Max Guild is dead content, right?
Yeah, right. Yeah,
We got a
that's
PVM
true.
hub.
We got a PVM hub.
95% of the time, the materials you get from a dig site will be the materials you need to restore the artifact at a bench. And can someone explain to me what the godforsaken fantasy with benches, and more benches was?
I don't get it. I mean, I don't know.
Is there like a bench-related pun?
I call the bed the workbench sometimes, you know.
Okay.
Let's see, best bench pun. According to punstoppable.com, we've got what's brown and sits on a piano bench.
Hang on. I got the clip here from the video for anyone wondering what it was. Let me just play a little bit of this because it was hilarious.
Artifact. You click on it. Oh god.
Can you do the live action benches here, Timbo?
Oh, sure.
There we go. Come on, here we go.
Timbo!
Benches.
Oh dear. Yeah.
Benches?
Benches.
Oh, all right, mate.
Benches.
Oh no, shit. I was...
Yeah, benches.
oh, cheers, Timbo.
Right, cheers, mate.
God, just have to say, that was an awful day for Phil.
Restoration happens on benches. Benches. And more benches. Anyways, yes. Moving on from that, I don't know. I guess it was just a little Maud Osborne play there. You complete the collection log to earn chronotes, and completing the collection is very useful for the player. And in particular, what they say is the museum guard will give you 60% of what a specific collector would normally give you. It's kind of the same way that selling to a general store is worse than selling to an actual store. And, you know, lo and behold, remember our discussion on stores a couple weeks ago, Tanis?
Yeah.
Except rather than stores, it's collectors now.
Right, yeah.
So that's going to play a role. Iron Man issues were revealed in longevity testing, and they found that the skill can be trained self-sufficiently, and it was a lot worse prior to their longevity testing, and it was rebalanced given the testing they did.
Well, who would have thunk? Longevity testing. Longevity testing, here to stay.
Yeah, and you know they definitely should work that into the roadmap for this year.
Yeah, I would think so.
I would hope so. Everyone's getting 50 new bank spaces for this updates because the material bank will have enough to store all the materials, but they're just adding more bank spaces for everything else that's somewhat related to it, so you don't need to store any of the materials and whatnot in your actual bank. The rate of artifacts that you're going to get are not near the player-owned farm level. And is this what made you feel like it was slow? The fact that they said you're going to get less artifacts than you get animals at your POF?
Yeah, but you have to have those artifacts, right? Like,
Yeah, to restore.
there's no way to get around the artifacts.
Yeah, and unless artifacts are giving, multiple thousands worth of XP like the animals do.
But you're working for the artifacts.
Yeah.
You're following a little ferry around the excavation site or whatever.
Yeah. And
I mean,
I just want to say, the more and more I see this, the more I want to play the skill.
yeah, but sounds slow, dude.
Games become fast enough over the years.
Like you almost would have to buy all of the other stuff just so that you could, to get. I mean, because if you're only getting artifacts,
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, I mean, if you're getting artifacts at a rate that you get animals, dude, that's passive. You go there once a day. This you're gonna have to be working at. I mean, I gotta get my hands on it. Like, I don't know. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah, and because of that, I think it would be best to refrain from speculation going forward on what that's going to be until we get our hands on it. Because as much as I want to say the skill should be as slow as woodcutting was in RuneScape Classic, you really can't do that in the modern era.
no.
Yeah, no thanks.
No, thank you. Yeah.
Spin to win. Let's go.
Oh, yeah, that's another thing. Item XP, or rather not item XP boost, but just XP boosts in general, are not going to work on Archaeology for the foreseeable future.
Well, unless you're into skill chompas, and then have you seen that this? Wow.
What happened with those?
Everyone went out and tried to buy as many as they could.
Oh.
It's like toilet paper at Costco. Good luck.
That's actually a good idea. After the work on the 5,000 harmonic dust is done, let's go start farming those skill chompas.
Dude, they've shot up because it's the only the only thing that's going to work with it. So, yeah.
It's just like everything. It's just like toilet paper. You take it for granted until you don't have it.
Yep.
Or you don't have another method.
Yeah, like, a rag in a washing machine. Hell, I don't know.
Okay. Let's see. Leveling. They talked about leveling with this. Depending on what qualification you are, you can access different things in the Archaeology shop. Most of the items in the shop are consumable. They will boost soil rate, artifact rate, and Archaeology XP. So there you go. So it's a feedback loop where you initially wouldn't have this, but then you use the currency that you have earned from the skill to continue earning more XP in the skill.
Yeah, it's like using energy when you're doing divination.
Yeah,
Training.
and they're 100% consumable, and you get more potent versions as you rank up in the shop. Now, as a gathering skill, most of the time will be spent gathering. You find the artifacts and then you restore them. And that's the core loop for leveling the skill. And they say along the way you'll uncover mysteries and find lore. So lore is definitely going to be something that's there, and the mysteries are going to be associated with each dig site as well. But the bulk of the XP in terms of leveling comes from restoration, and excavation will only result in slow XP and make lots of money. And we already talked about this, but this is where they were talking about the core XP loop that the skill has, and in particular there's going to be specific qualifications that you choose to level up first. For example, you can access different things in the shop if you choose different qualifications as you're doing your archaeology research. And this is where the player-owned archaeologists come in, because there's actually an area for research management, which is something like player-owned ports, but that's, for all intents and purposes, player-owned archaeologists. You send archaeologists out on specific missions. There's no failure, and you can only hire people that are below you, as logically happens. And these people bring back things to help archaeology. So there's even a player-owned farm, player-owned ports element to the skill.
Oh. That's cool. Maybe, it's like a research team.
Yeah, exactly. That's what it is. So you can factor that out as well for improving XP rates on this. How does the skill feel in terms of being rewarding? They say it's top-heavy in terms of rewards, areas, and mysteries, and you can't finish a dig site until you're high level. And the example of this is that there's content in the first dig site that ends at level 117, and that dig site unlocks at level 5.
Yeah. You know what that reminded me of?
What, Dungeoneering?
No, the old barbarian agility and gnome agility.
Right,
How you go back to it.
Yeah. And that's good because, you know, they highlighted divination, how when you finish at a colony, you're done there.
Yeah, it's true.
The qualifications that you get that are going to govern what's in the store are meta achievements that allow you to explore different aspects from the skill, and they let you unlock different pieces of content. And, you know, we had a bit of this in terms of invention with those couple little tech trees that came out, but they really never continued that. So I'm hoping that this plays a large role in the archaeology skill. Because, you know, I think good game design comes down to having many good options on the table, but ultimately having players make the choice of which ones they want to specialize in terms of these qualifications, so that you can unlock everything eventually, but as you're leveling up, you're going to need to make those tough choices. And if they wanted to go one step further, they could lock people out entirely, but that's just not the Jagex way, so I don't think they'll be doing that.
Right, and while I think all of us here think that this is great, you do have to ask the question, like, how many layers of complexity have we just talked about?
Well, enough that they
Layered,
fit this into an hour stream, and they
layered.
got 3 more to talk about.
Yeah, right. So there's more coming down. Yeah, because, I mean, but think about all of the stuff you just laid out. All the different layers of mechanics. Like, we're going to have to figure out your materials.
Your soil.
The restoration, the soil, the artifacts, the
player-owned archaeologists.
player-owned archaeologists, the qualifications. And we haven't even touched how it's interacting with summoning and invention. So, or lore. I mean, we know there's going to be a lot of it. That's pretty much all we know.
And that's why here for RSBANDB Update, we're taking the path that, you know, we're hoping that March, or rather April, will be a quiet month after the release so we can focus on the skill.
Right. Well, what I'm saying is, like I'm a little bit worried it might be a little much for some players. Like,
well, they could also they could always add a 2,000% multiplier to one of the core mechanics a week after the release.
hey, only if it's on Treasure Hunter.
I hope they don't do that to Gathering, because I really like the way this sounds right now.
I don't think it'll be any. It'll be treated like Invention and Div was when it comes to like XP boosting thing. I think
Yeah, I hope
they'll
so.
at least let the race be over at a minimum.
In regards to the player-owned archaeologists, you send them off on their missions. There's going to be general research, which is things you can do perpetually on repeat, effectively standard missions. Then there's also going to be special research missions, which are one-off narrative-driven missions that are, of course, narrative meaning lore. And rewards for your player-owned archaeologists will scale with your level.
And that's just like ports, right? Just like your special missions.
Yeah.
Then, essentially, I wonder if that'll be a comp rec. Sure.
That's where we're going next on this. Comp and Trim will have a grace period. If you get 99 back, it's only to max. You will be able to wear your comp cape again. So if you get 99 in the first week, but you haven't done the comp or trim requirements, you will get your comp cape back because you got 99.
In the first week?
Well, I'm just saying that. I just pulled that number out of the air.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I was like, I thought they said that.
No, it's a 6-month grace period for comp, trim, and master quest. The only exception is getting 99.
That's a hell of a comp. See, I don't do we need a grace period when they fix the comp cape?
No.
Yeah, see?
But that was part of the
Why?
comp cape redesign.
I know, they redesigned it so you didn't have to do grace periods, right? Like, you shouldn't need that now because you don't have to rush to get it back for your PBN.
Yeah.
Like, that was the whole thing, right?
Exactly.
I'm confused, Shane.
Yeah, and this next one shouldn't have had to have been spelled out, but players with Jack of all trades and Master of all will have their titles and whatnot removed until the archery pet is unlocked.
Okay.
I mean, I don't know why people would need to answer that. That just seems like common sense. The Gatherer's Cape will be removed until all the shards are gathered again. And in general, with boosts, assume they don't work. And the only ones that will work will be the ones within the skill and the Archaeology consumables.
And choppas.
Yes. And that was pretty much it for the live stream. I mean, I still feel rather vague about this, but at the same time, it's something I want to get my hands on.
Yeah, I want to get my hands on it so that I feel like I won't feel so overwhelmed once I'm actually playing it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I felt it was a little overwhelming at first.
Yeah,
But then
and
again,
it definitely
I wasn't
is.
at RuneFest. This is the first time, I'm seeing the skill in action and everything, and they're really talking, in depth about it. So.
Yeah, and the video they did was very good, and they had to, effectively slow down and look at various little captures of it, because that just shows that the videos they release on the Fridays don't capture it. And in a way, I'm glad we are doing this now, because last week I thought, what if we did the show on Friday and talked about the video that came out, but we wouldn't have been having the discussion that we're having now, so it's good we're doing it this way.
Nope.
Anything else before we move on? Or are we good? 1, 2, 3. Alrighty. Well then, next up, everyone's favorite or most desired treasure hunter promo is here for the month of March. The Diamond Dozen, which is the treasure hunter promo that they teased, where you're going to actually be able to choose your own rewards that go on the table.
Yeah, I did that today. I was initially confused about what I was supposed to do because I didn't read anything about it. But then it made sense.
All right. We're going to do another one of these live demonstrations on RSBANDB Update with my treasure hunter keys.
They're so close.
What do you mean they're so close?
They need to be like Elsa and just let it go. Let all the RNG go. Let it go. Let it go.
All right. So you open the Diamond Dozen promo, and what you effectively do is you clear your gem slots if you had them set previously. And there's 12 slots in total. So I did this yesterday, so I'm clearing all my slots, and I'll show you guys how this works. So when you open it up, there's, of course, the 5 different levels of rarity. You got 3 white gems, 3 yellow gems, 3 orange, 2 red, and 1 purple. So what you can choose to go in the purple one is 2,000 of each protein item, 300 silver hawk feathers, 600 springs, 4,000 rare item tokens, 100,000 oddments. I can't read that with the comma there. That's 10,000, sorry. Or 50 million GP. So I'm putting 50 million GP in the purple gem. So you just click on it, and then it puts it in the purple gem. And it won't let you use Treasure Hunter until you've filled everything up, if that makes sense. So for my red gems, I'm going to go with oddments and a D&D monthly token. For my orange gems, I'm going to go with a large star, a large cash bag, and oddments. For my yellow gems now, and we're getting down to the nitty-gritty part here, I'm going to go with the medium cash bag, the weekly D&D token, and medium star. Then for my other ones, we'll just go for a small star, a small cash bag, and a daily D&D token. And then you're able to claim your prize. And I got one of the medium cash bags. And for what it's worth, you can actually change between each key what you want in here. So if you make a mistake, you can change it out, which is very interesting, I think. Then you just click claim prize, and then along the way, you effectively are only getting things that you want. So what I actually got out of this is actually rather interesting. I got a large cash bag, a medium cash bag, and one of the small fallen stars. And I got 970k out of the large, 96k out of the medium cash bag. And lo and behold, that's a dime a dozen promo.
You know, it kind of only looks like you're getting what you want.
But there's still, of course, RNG around for
and you're picking
specific items.
That's like, it's fine. Okay, yeah, you're picking for the first few gems or whatever. It's a decent price or whatever. But like, you're picking from a progressively worthless kind of pool, right?
I wouldn't call it worthless. I think the cash bags and the stars and the 50 million GP is worth something.
But you're not gonna. No one is buying a treasure hunter key for anything really other than stars, lamps, stars and lamps.
Well, then fill it with stars and lamps.
But there's only like a few of the gems that I heard you read that off on.
I mean, you could have chose more. I mean, I don't have a key to
1 in
pop it
12
open.
chance.
Yeah.
Right, but it's still a 1 in 12 chance.
And skewed more to the white, yellow, and orange instead of the red and purple.
Yeah, see, I don't know. Like, cut the cord, guys. Cut the cord.
Like, here's what... Actually, I can look here. Here's what your choices are for purple. No lamps. For red, you can choose huge fallen stars. For orange, you can choose large fallen stars. For yellow, you can choose medium fallen stars, and for small, for white, you can choose that. So in theory, you could load it up.
You can load up.
You can load it up on one of each star, but you can't load it up on more than one star.
Okay. What do you think, David?
Like here's another way of looking at it. David, sorry, go ahead.
I again kind of think that this is all a step in the right direction, I guess. It's weird though, because it almost feels like they're now making me feel like, I don't know, I feel like I'm participating in even more to create this thing that I just don't like. So I feel it almost feels like I have to be like less mad at them or something like that. But like really the problem is the existence of the entire concept of it in the first place. So it's weird. I don't know. I have like mixed feelings about it. I don't know. I'm not sure I'll ever think that there's a good example of a treasure hunter promo, and it's almost one of those things where at least in the time when promos were really, really bad, there was at least a community willingness to rally around condemning the existence of treasure hunter, but this almost might feel like make us get used to it and make us accept it as potentially acceptable or good. So I don't know.
Well, my long-term view on it is that you take these kind of promos, the glass box promo, and that other one, I forget what the other one was, not the glass box one, but the other one we had not too long ago. You take that one, this one, and the glass box, and after that, when you're ready to make a big move, you just rebrand it as something else other than treasure hunting, and you run it rotating these kind of promos and cosmetic items, and that's how you combat the hate around it. And just to talk about making it tilted towards XP and lamps here, Tannis, I've reconfigured it to include a prismatic small star, a small cash bag, a small lamp, a medium star, a medium lamp, a medium cash bag, a large star, a large lamp, a large cash bag, a huge star, and a huge lamp, in addition to the 50 mil. So you can make it entirely focused around XP if you want.
But doesn't that kind of sound like regular treasure hunter without the complete shit items? Without like the sharks and just stupid crap? Like, doesn't all those things, it sounds like straight up regular treasure hunter.
I mean, there's a choice involved, so you're going to feel better about it. I like it. But when have I not liked something market related?
Yeah. Yeah. I think David has a good point. It's like, no, come be dirty with us. We're going to be dirty together.
Well, they could call it the Dirty Dozen instead.
The Dirty Dozen, there we go. Missed marketing opportunity right there.
All right, well, let's move on then. I think we got most of what we needed out of that one. But, I mean, it's there, and as we always say, if this is the kind of treasure hunter promo that you like, invest money in it.
Yep.
If this is the way you want them to go. There we go. All right, so we got a listener question this week, but before we do that, I'll just take a moment to thank our excellent Patreon supporters for this week's episode. And, you know, when we do this, it truly does mean the world to us. So starting off, I'd like to thank this week 29 Let's Go, Brock H, Cameron, Cass, CGB 900, Christian S, Diana, Jade Gizmo, James W, Jason S, Joe M, John P, Kyle, R Memories, Rastafa, Rippeth, Sam W, The Naked Captain, The Lion, Tom V, and Zez. Thank you, all of you, for your support of RSBANDB Update. It truly does mean the world to us, and we appreciate all the support that everybody has brought forward to us, and we could not do this without you guys. So just a reminder of what all this is about. This is about our Patreon, which you can find at patreon.com/RSBNB. You can sign up for as little as $1 a month. You gain access to the entire back catalogs of monthly bits. We just put out a really tremendous monthly bit last week about Iron Man. Talked to Rastafa, who is the #1 Iron Man in the construction skill. First to 200 mil. And talked about the Iron Man experience and what it means for the game. So definitely give that a listen. And if you want to, you gain access to that through Patreon for as little as $1 a month. You also get early access to our show notes and help fund the cost for hosting and production of RSBANDB Update. For $3 a month, you can get a special VIP rank on the Discord I mentioned at the start of the month and access to high-quality stereo AAC version of the show. And for $5 a month, you get a special shout-out each and every week and gain exclusive access to the outtakes that we use for the clip show at the end of the year, in addition to everything else. And, of course, what everybody has been wondering about is what are we going to do for movie night? Well, I've got that decision down to 2 choices so far. That'll be on Monday, March 23rd. Details will be posted on Patreon as we get closer to it. But it's down to 2 potential shows for that one. And I'll just give a bit of a teaser of what those are. They're Star Trek VI and Contagion, which is, really timely, isn't it, Dennis?
Topical.
And for anyone wondering how this is going to work, I will choose the first one, Tanis will choose the second one, and then we'll put a bunch of other choices into the hat from the producers team and maybe the Patreon people, and we'll randomly choose going forward after that. So if you want to be a part of that, or you want to be a part of the round table, which will happen around the middle of the month, around that time as well, or you just want to read Inside RSBANDB Update later in the month, all of this and more can be found at patreon.com/RSBNB. Thank you so much for your support, everyone.
Thanks.
All right, so we have a question this week from 29 Let's Go, who's one of our Patreon members. It says, "Hey guys, thanks for another great show. I have a question that might have been asked, but if it hasn't, I'm interested. It's funny when I think back to how much I learned when I was young and bring it into my adult life, everything from typing to silly RS-related mind games. When I served in the U.S. Marines, I would use RuneScape as something to help me through the difficult times when I haven't used the internet in months, as silly as it sounds, and it helped with anxiety and staying focused. Besides myself, Jagex released a video on YouTube about how people would meet in game and get married in real life, or a grandson and grandfather going fishing together when they couldn't. So how has RuneScape helped you in real life?" And that's from 29 Let's Go. And I just have to say that I meant to get to this question a couple of weeks ago, but I glossed over it in the mail list. It got caught behind some audio questions, but nonetheless, we did get to it now. So thank you for sending that in. All right. David, do you want to go first, or should we have one of us go first?
You could go first.
All right. Tanis, you got one?
Yeah, when I was reading this question earlier, I thought, whoa. This is pretty deep. And I had to think, because at first you're like, well, I don't know, has it? Did it? And then you start thinking of all these things that you are or have that you wouldn't have had, without RS. And most importantly, I think, have been the people. I don't think I wouldn't be writing. I just probably wouldn't be doing that. So it's definitely done that. I wouldn't have my computer that I have now. That
were we one of the ones that, or were you one of the ones that helped with the build help?
You were.
Okay.
Yeah, and then my friend drove all the way from Arkansas and came up and put it together. Like,
nice.
Yeah, and it was a a friend in my clan. Like, it was, we're still good friends, today. Like, it's, I've met, I've gotten work from people that I've known in my clan. So it's like, it doesn't, like, at first you're like, oh, how's a game reach this far in your life? But once you start kind of looking at it, man, it actually does touch a whole lot of stuff.
Yeah. All right. For me, it was always something I was interested in before the show, but the ability to do public speaking and talk from a very limited set of notes. For anybody who looks at the show notes, that's something that doing a podcast is great for, because people say, is the show scripted? And I'm like, no, it's not. Everything is 100% natural based off of these notes, so that's something. Learning to deal with all different kinds of people is something too, because, back around 07, 08, we had a really bad troll epidemic of a collection of teenagers out there who were really causing trouble for us on our forums at the time, and that was an interesting experience in terms of how to deal with that. You also have, the ideas of, geez, I'm head of guild council, part of Clan Quest, a RuneScape clan with north of 480 members, and you have to do what you have to do to keep something like that running. And, there's also the entire skill set that came from building this podcast and publishing it, everything from the website surrounding it to how to distribute media and how to work with social media a bit too. Granted, that's something that we're still working on in terms of the YouTube and the Twitters and whatnot. But these are things that all have been picked up as a knockoff effect as of RS, of course. So I think that would be my general answer too, to expand on yours as well, because the people is definitely something out there as well. And this happened after RuneFest. Sirion wrote a great article about RuneFest with friends or something to that effect, was the title on that. So, sorry, it's from RS with friends to friends with RS. So you start playing RS with friends, and then your friends become friends in the game, and they become real world friends. And that's what this Informer article was about. And I think, Janice, you have probably looked at that, and everybody I've showed this to has met someone from online definitely agrees with that too. So I'm going to second what you had to say on that.
Oh.
All right. David?
Yeah, same for me. More specifically, one of my best friends from college who, I was still close with, but recently he started playing his Iron Man account again, and so we've started just like hanging out way more, kind of like how we used to, just playing our Iron Mans and progressing together, and it's been a lot of fun to kind of reconnect over that.
Yeah,
but
and
generally a lot of friendships have been sustained through playing the game.
Yeah,
sure.
and it's a perfect way to build and nurture those. And it's lean back enough that it doesn't need to be something that a lot of effort is put in. It's just something that's there, and that's going to become an even bigger factor as mobile becomes one of the main ways that people play, I think. So that's a
Oh, I thought you meant it's going to be a bigger factor since we're all going to be stuck in our houses.
or that too.
And gamers inherit the earth. Woo!
And that's why I said it.
It's so overrated, dude.
And that's why I said at the start of the show, it's a perfect time to be listening to podcasts.
Time for archaeology.
Of course, there's the potential downside that Cambridge will get the work at home order, and they won't be able to launch it that week.
Oh. Or take them laptops home, boys.
or deem it essential enough to send the necessary staff in to make that happen, because you can't shut down something that requires 24-hour support, which is what Jagex definitely does. So I'm confident we'll see it on the 30th. All right. Thank you for that question, 29. Let's go. That's a great question, and I'm glad that we've all had similar experiences on that. And I think this is also the fact that we all said the same thing about the people.
Wait.
And then we added on to it is also very good as well. Yeah.
Did you forget David?
I asked him.
No, I wasn't
No,
forgotten.
but he wasn't ready.
I asked him after.
No,
I came back to him. He said the people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Sorry. Editors now. Sorry, I thought you forgot David.
No, it's fine. No, we'll leave that in. We'll leave that in.
Really, it's that my answer was so mediocre and unsatisfying that it was immediately forgotten.
No. Of course not. And we're allowed to have the same answers when we do these questions, so that's fine.
Well, yeah, because I think,
we all had the same answer, except for me.
Yeah,
I added some stuff onto it.
Right.
Yeah. And, I'd say the same thing for anybody else out there, that if you want to take that same path with Clan Quest, do it. I mean, we're a very open organization to the point where if somebody is being a helpful individual, you will get noticed and you will become part of the administration if you so want to in Clan Quest. So if that sounds appealing to you, that you want to help out in a community, just head on over to our Clan Chat, Clan Quest, join up and follow the instructions for how to become a member, post your application, and we'll take it from there. It really is that simple.
What is this meritocracy you speak of, Shane? I've heard rumors before.
Well, I mean, it's not even a meritocracy. Anybody who can help can help. We have everything from events to the little newspaper thing to side events that aren't RuneScape related, like D&D. You can take part in any way that you want, really.
Awesome.
You can even help build the website too if you want. There's all kinds of options for that. But anyways, if you guys want to send questions in for this show, you can email them to questions@rsbnb.com, or you can leave us a DM on Twitter @RSBNB. All right, so moving into tech news for this week. You guys remember Tim Sweeney, the head of Epic and all that Fortnite stuff from a couple years back?
Vaguely.
Yeah. And the Epic Game Store? Well,
Yeah.
Epic's Tim Sweeney is now talking about how, GeForce Now is actually doing a good thing. And we talked about a few weeks back about how game studios like Activision Blizzard were pulling their games off of GeForce Now because they felt they weren't getting enough money from NVIDIA's revenue that they were bringing on this. So just a brief rundown of what this is. GeForce Now is a cloud game streaming service that effectively allows people to play games at 1080p or 4K if you don't have the good enough hardware to be able to do it locally. It's a game streaming service just like Stadia is and all the various other options out there that do that. And we saw Activision pull out and Blizzard pull out on GeForce Now, and the question was, why are they doing this? Well, it turns out that these publishers were pulling out because they wanted NVIDIA to give them a chunk of change on this. And this Epic's Tim Sweeney says that, Epic wholeheartedly supports NVIDIA's GeForce Now service with Fortnite and Epic Game Store, titles that choose to participate, including exclusives, and they'll be improving integration over time. He also called GeForce Now the most developer-friendly and publisher-friendly streaming service out there, and that, game companies that want to move to the streaming service need to look at products like GeForce Now to move the industry towards a healthier state, and everybody should be supporting this kind of service. But, on the other hand here, you really have to see, and you remember that, this is the Epic Game Store, and this was, of course, owned by a company from China, Tencent, and a lot of the games on the Epic Store are indeed exclusives that are locked specifically to that platform. They aim to give developers more money, but in terms of defending NVIDIA and GeForce Now, it's a little bit hypocritical that Epic's Tim Sweeney is saying this, because the Epic Store is one of the most locked down ones there is, and they're kind of saying that, NVIDIA with GeForce Now should give publishers more latitude when Epic doesn't do that on the Epic Store with people who want to go there. So it's a bit of a double-edged sword on this, but overall it caused Epic to speak out, and if Epic is on the side of GeForce Now, it's just another big question that everybody has out there about who is right and who is wrong in all of this, all situations like this. So,
my question is, how much stock does Tim Sweeney have in GeForce?
Or NVIDIA, you mean?
Yeah, NVIDIA, because, why is he all of a sudden their spokesperson? I'm their biggest supporter. Huh?
Yeah, and you remember how hypocritical it was when the whole Epic Game Store saga was happening, and just to, see him saying this now really shows that he's just looking out for the Epic Store's interests in terms of products like GeForce Now, I think. And that's my take on it.
Yeah.
And, he's also saying that cloud streaming services will end monopolies of the iOS and Google Play Store. Like, really? Those really are not two things that compete with one another. I don't know anybody who considers games that you play on your computer to be at competition with games that you play on iOS or Android.
I know. That's yeah, he's definitely thinking mobile-centric there, right?
Yeah, and he says that, we're just waiting till later this year when Google is lobbying against Apple for blocking Stadia from iOS. Well, Google blocks GeForce Now, xCloud, and Fortnite from Google Play, and this whole rotten structure begins collapsing on itself. No, I'm sorry. It's actually the Fortnite people who are the ones that poisoned this pot to begin with, and his Epic Game Store. So, I don't know. I just wanted to provide this extra context and clarity for people who might have seen this and thought that Tim Sweeney was doing a good thing, but it's one of the most hypocritical releases that was ever put out there. David, you have anything on that?
I don't really have too much to add.
All right, that's fine.
Yeah.
I have a question for you then. Did you run your Windows updates this week?
I haven't, although I did see like a pop-up for it. I just like ignored it.
Well,
Should I run it?
You should run your Windows updates eventually, because this week Microsoft patched a vulnerability in something called the SMB v3 protocol that's wormable, which means that if this was to be weaponized, it could propagate throughout the internet. Effectively, what SMB stands for is server message block. It's a protocol used for sharing files and printers over a local network on the internet. And the bug, you guys ready for this? Allows attackers to connect to remote systems where the SMB service is enabled and run malicious code with system privileges, allowing for remote takeovers of vulnerable systems.
SMB.
That sound good.
Yeah, that's the protocol name, server message block. It's basically the Microsoft version or protocol that enables printer and file sharing across a network. And it's pretty much on...
You sure it don't stand for Corona Mega Bug virus? Getting our computers now.
And you know, the unfortunate part about this is it's turned on for basically every Windows computer out there. Yeah. So run your Windows
Pretty sure my
updates this week,
ran.
everyone.
Yeah. Pretty sure mine ran.
And it was unveiled a little bit prematurely before the patch hit, so that irked some people. But antivirus vendors have already said that this could be weaponized to spread worms like used to happen with the WannaCry bug of 2017 and earlier worms as well, with the focus being, of course, today on ransomware. So just a bit of a warning out there to everybody to run your Windows updates.
That's nasty crap, too.
Yeah, and the fact that it can be spread over the internet without you downloading file means something else entirely. All right, do we have any Firefox users here?
No.
But I think I might be creating some new Firefox users soon based on this story. So Firefox 74 is due to arrive, and it's shipping with a browser add-on that quarantines Facebook.
Ooh.
The Facebook container...
quarantine is the word.
Yeah, it is. This is a Facebook container add-on, but it's been enhanced in its latest version with the ability to add custom sites to the container so that you can still log into Facebook wherever you want. But what this container does, it allows you to run the Facebook website without it having the ability to track your browsing everywhere else. And everywhere and every time you see a little Facebook like button on the internet and you're logged into Facebook, Facebook is tracking you. So what this extension does is it closes your Facebook tabs, deletes your Facebook cookies, and logs you out of Facebook. And when you do visit Facebook and log in, the cookies it uses are isolated specifically to that container, so they can't access what you're doing in the rest of your web browser. So this prevents things like the like buttons that I mentioned from tracking you. And, you know, this is something that many people are wanting in this day and age. We talked about before how Brave does this, and it's now an option to have it automatically put on with Firefox here as well. So now the question is anybody going to switch to Firefox to have this built in?
No, but maybe Google will pick it up. Or something that somebody uses might pick it up.
Maybe.
Because, I mean, you know, Facebook is kind of an unstoppable disease that keeps spreading and spreading and spreading no matter how you try to stop it. And I think the only thing we can do is quarantine it.
Yeah, and, you know, we'd have to wait and see if Chrome would be willing to add such a container option for Facebook like that to say that, hey, to have maximum privacy, the website should only be able to interact with itself in that regard. And here, there's an extension that's being offered to Firefox users in order to make that happen. And, you know, this is just another step along the way of browsers like Firefox and Brave from taking that step forward to differentiate themselves from what is the status quo and increasingly has become the status quo of Google Chrome. So overall, I think this is a good thing for Firefox users, and it gives people a reason to have a choice other than Chrome out there, which is nothing but good. So
Yeah, the only thing is like how much Facebook is being looked at, like on a, I mean, how many people are looking at Facebook on a desktop? I mean, I guess maybe at work they do something.
Well, the extension has 1.1 million users.
Really?
Yeah. And Facebook is thought to have around 2.5 billion users in total. So it's a small chunk of the pot.
Yeah. I was just curious about that, 'cause most people I see interacting with Facebook's on the phone, and I didn't think that you could have that on your phone. So.
All right. Well then, I think we can move on to our achievements of the week, which, I think you're right. Everybody is taking a bit of a breather in the lead up to archaeology.
Well, we needed it between Double XP Extended and archaeology. Like, you gotta rest up, because it's exciting.
All right, what do we got to start off with here?
Well, we have Skerrick Row with 120 Herbler. Ooh, nice. That was on March 11th. Then we have Skerrick Row with 99 Attack on March 11th.
Nicely done. Oh, I see. That turns out to be Scarecrow.
Oh, Scarecrow. It's been a long week, man.
I didn't get it either until I said that.
Scarecrow. Oh, I'm not right.
All right. Next up,
I like Scarecrow better.
Next up, Darth Marth with 120 Herblore on the 10th. FE Super J with 99 Herblore on the 10th. And R3PO with 120 Constitution on the 10th.
Then we've got, Warrock with 120 Farming on March 6th. And Paper Gap with 99 Agility on March 5th.
Nicely done, everyone. Nicely done. All right. Tannis, pick of the week.
Pick of the week. Shane, did you ever play with Legos?
Yes. I hate stepping on them, but yes.
Everyone does. Do you still play with Legos?
No.
You should try.
I don't know where they are.
It's great.
Whatnot.
It's Legos kind of helps your imagination. Anyway, the reason I'm asking you about Legos is, have you heard of the show Lego Masters?
No.
Awesome show. I think it's on Fox. It's on after The Masked Singer, I think.
Oh, that's another travesty of reality this week.
Yes, it was. Yes, it was. But on Lego Masters, they build all kinds of stuff, right? And it's different competitions, and someone ends up going home every week. You know the formula. You know how it goes. But it's so cool to see what people can make out of Legos. Like it's just so cool. Like and the best part was, like, my daughter gets home today from school. She's like, "You want to watch Lego Masters?" So it's one of those shows you can watch together.
That's so cute.
Yeah,
I
like
love that.
that
makes me so happy.
Yeah, and we watched it, and they were building. They built all these awesome, like, bridges, and they're like, "All right, we're gonna test them out." And dude, some of these bridges held like 1,000 pounds. You're like, what?
That's
it's
wild.
just little Legos, So, yeah, that's my pick of the week. It's called Lego Masters, and I promise, you will not see any failed vice presidential candidates on that show. I can assure you. It will not be on that show.
I at the University of Texas where I work, I'm sure it's nothing on what they do on this show, but one of the students built a massive, well, I guess it depends what you consider massive. To me, massive for a Lego project of the football stadium, and it's on display in one of the buildings, and it's really cool.
That's awesome.
That's the only like really cool Lego thing I've seen up close. But this sounds so much fun. I love that this is your pick of the week. That's really cool.
Has Lego started selling it in bulk so you can just buy the pieces and you don't need to buy the sets?
Yeah. Funny thing about that is we found once like a 1,500 piece. It's just classic, just the classic bricks. And that's what I tried. I tried to buy it. Like, you can buy it by the pound on like eBay. I bought like 5 pounds of them. I was all excited. I'm like, yeah, we're gonna make some cool stuff. And then when I got them, it was all like random pieces from a million sets. I'm like, oh no. Like, we'd been waiting.
What
on
are we
this
gonna do now?
Yeah, but it was like, hey, I mean, I bought it. It was,
Oh, I mean, it's still useful.
Does anyone remember
of course,
being a kid and having to like get up to go to the bathroom or get a drink of water and stepping on Legos?
Yeah.
It's like it's the most hilariously painful thing. It's to barefoot step on Legos.
I think it is what makes your brain develop all the way, to where, like, where you can just feel extraordinary pain. It finishes your neurons at that age, and like, it wires everything together through excruciating pain.
Anyways, that's a good pick of the week. I really enjoy that.
Yeah, me too. Especially the part about watching with your daughter. That's awesome. Good for you.
Thanks.
All right. What have we been up to this week? Let's hear from you first, David.
Well, I am mostly playing Iron Man. So I'm still doing IFB stuff. I got one of the Twin Furies pets today.
On your
so
Iron
I'm
Man?
still getting like... No, on my main.
Okay, good.
On my main.
Okay.
Yeah, so on my main, I got a Twin Furies pet. Been switched to Corp because I found out that you could basically AFK Corp to where you only click like once every 5 minutes, which I didn't realize. So that's kind of nice. And then on my Iron Man is where I like 90% of my playtime. I just unlocked a Sun Spear today, which is
and we know
for
how important
anyone
that is.
Yeah, it's like the key to everything because basically you live at Vyres for your whole existence as an Iron Man until you're at the end game. Basically, they carry you for prayer, herb lore, fire making, farming. They're just combat XP, invention XP. And currently, my friend and I are working on getting untrimmed invention capes on our Iron Man characters.
Yeah, I know someone who did that. That's really something.
It's easier than you think. Just because I will say that it's easier than you think, but it A, requires a lot of planning, and B, requires holding off on getting much easier 99s.
Right.
But it does take a really long time. But yeah, I'm pretty excited for it.
Nice. Excellent. How about you, Tanis?
I've been taking it pretty easy this week. I've actually been playing a lot of No Man's Sky because I still love the game. But when I've been on, I've been collecting my chronic dust. So I had to go up here to the harp, make sure I had everything I needed for the old Matic.
Yep. All right. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I've been doing.
All right. For me, this week, I completed finally my Prif and overall camouflage outfit. I don't know why, I just wanted to complete that one. The only one I'm still missing is Rune Ethereal, because I haven't done much rune crafting, so I just wanted to complete that set. So that was what I was primarily working on. But aside from that, yeah, just back to the harps to get that 5,000 harmonic dust before Archaeology hits, and if there's any downtime after that, we'll just take it from there and see maybe some clue scrolls along the way. But definitely same thing as you, focusing on those harps and completing that Prif outfit set, or sorry, the theming camouflage outfit set. It's really not that effective in this day and age compared to thieving. If you're doing Prif, the best part about it is you can kind of use it to teleport around Prif, but even then, if you wanted to, your elf teleport crystal could do that. And if you were, of course, thieving outside of the world, it would gain more use, but I don't really find much value of it in Prif, but I just wanted to complete it. Sure, if you are out there and you're jumping between safe cracking sites, or maybe you're pickpocketing some NPCs, it can definitely help with that. So that's what I've been up to.
Sweet. Awesome.
And I think that's it for this episode of RSBANDB Update. So hopefully you guys enjoyed that one. We'll be back next week with more archaeology talk, and we're not stopping because seemingly seems as though the rest of the world wants to stop. RSBANDB Update's not doing that, so rest assured that during this global health scare, you will have RSBANDB Update to keep you sane while playing RuneScape. So with that being said, if you guys want to subscribe to the podcast, you can do that in any way. Just visit us at update.rsbnb.com/subscribe. You can subscribe on Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Spotify, Pocket Cast, Stitcher, and even YouTube. Just visit update.rsbnb.com/subscribe. And with that being said, we'll see you guys next week for another episode of RSBANDB Update. Take care, everyone.
See ya.